Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining. Today, we're going to do Gym Etiquette 101. And there was a time when a video like this didn't need to be made because people would come to a gym and it was almost like a camaraderie back then. You know, people knew what they were doing. There was a lot of weightlifters in the gyms, and the culture was so much different than it is now. Now, more people are into going to the gym and working out than there ever have been. And that's a really good thing. The problem is a lot of people that are coming into the gym atmosphere just don't have the gym etiquette. And I don't even think it's that they don't want to have etiquette. I honestly think a lot of times they just don't know. They just don't have a clue to what gym etiquette is. Every setting that you go to in this life, there's an etiquette that goes with that setting. So if you walk into a golf tournament, there's a certain way you carry yourself in that particular tournament. If you were to walk into a karate dojo, you don't just walk in there with your shoes on the mats. They always take their shoes off. That's part of the etiquette. And if you walked in there with your shoes on, somebody would pull you aside and tell you, hey, you got to take your shoes off. But it's kind of a known thing that you don't just walk into a dojo with shoes on. And it's the same type of thing with a gym atmosphere. There are a lot of different etiquettes that I want to cover in these videos. This one today, we're going to talk about something called working in. Working in. And that's something that since day one that I was lifting, I learned about. And if you don't know what working in means if somebody's working out on a machine or with a piece of equipment, you can use that piece of equipment while they're on their rest period. Because usually you'll do 10 repetitions of something or 8 repetitions, however many repetitions you do, and you're not going to do 100 repetitions straight. You have to take a rest period. So for example, if I have 50-pound dumbbells and I do 10 chest presses with 50-pound dumbbells, so I'm doing my chest presses, right? And I have to take a rest at some point. I put those dumbbells down. While those dumbbells are sitting on the floor, somebody else can come over, grab them, and do curls with them. I wouldn't mind that. And then when they're done with their set of curls, it's going to be time for me to do my chest presses again. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people in gym settings nowadays that have no idea about this concept of working in. They want to get on a machine, sit there with a newspaper. I've seen people sitting on a machine with their phone. I've seen people sitting there with a magazine, a novel, and you're on a machine, you do a set, and you're just sitting there chilling. And usually, unfortunately, it's people who aren't really lifting enthusiasts. They're people who are just into the gym because it's the fashionable thing to do, or their doctor told them they have to go. But you really need to know the etiquette of a gym before you step foot in there. You really need to know the etiquette. So that's why I'm doing this video, to educate you. So if you're using a machine, for example, a chest press or flies, whatever the machine is in your local gym, you do your set. Maybe it's 10 repetitions, 12 repetitions, whatever it is. That's called a set. When you're done with that set, it's up to you to see if somebody else is standing there that might want to work in with you and use that machine while you're on your break. And back in the day, when we worked in, we were even cognizant enough to put the seat setting back on the original person's setting and adjust the weight back for them when it was time for them to go. So like I said, there was a camaraderie with this. There was a basic common element of just sharing. You learn that in kindergarten, hopefully, depending on what school you went to. but you learn sharing from a very young age. You know, we're all in this together. It's a fitness journey. And my point in making this video isn't to put anybody down, it's to educate, because I don't think a lot of people know. So if you don't know about working in with somebody and what that is, now you know. And if you choose to not partake in this after you've watched this, well, that's on you. That's on you. And you deal with the fallout from that, whatever that may be, in the particular atmosphere that you're in the gym. And there are some exceptions to the rule. There are some exceptions to the rule. If someone's doing a heavy deadlift and, you know, they have 4 or 5 plates on the bar, you know, 500-600 pounds, and somebody else wants to use that bar, that's going to be a little bit more difficult to do, because you'd have to take all that weight off, put it all back on. It's a little bit different when you're talking about Olympic lifts, unless you're working out with somebody and your weights are pretty comparable. But if somebody has 600 pounds in the bar and you're going to lift 20 pounds, it's not really reasonable for them to take all that weight off and put it all back on. I'll be honest with you, I've done that several times though. There'll be somebody who wants to use the bench. I'm on the bench and they're not lifting quite as much as I am, but I'll let them work in and I'll help strip the weight off and put it back on. I don't really find it to be a big deal, but I consider really heavy lifts with a barbell and Olympic lifts to be a little bit different, because the bar has to be reset. But when you're talking about dumbbells, machines, something as simple as an ab roller, something like that, you've got to be willing to recognize, again, the etiquette and mannerisms of what working in is. Okay, a gym atmosphere, again, is a camaraderie. There's a lot you can learn from people that are experienced. And whenever I see somebody in a gym atmosphere who that just doesn't know what this is, I try to make an effort to educate them and to help teach them and guide them along, because a lot of times it's just not their fault. Maybe somebody didn't guide them and help them. And then, let's face it, you're going to have the opposite side of the spectrum, where you're going to have some people who just don't care. So they know the etiquette and they just don't care. So going back to what I said about the karate dojo, it's a known fact that if you go into a karate dojo, you take your shoes off. That's just common knowledge to most people. There are some people who know something like that, and they'll be that guy who will just walk in there anyway with their shoes on, because some people think rules are just not for them. And those people, there's just not a whole lot of hope for them, because they're choosing not to partake. They're choosing not to adopt the etiquette. They're choosing to be obstinate, and they're choosing to be difficult, and that's up to them. You're going to run into those people all the time, and that happens, and they'll just have to be the outcast in that environment. But most gyms nowadays have become very commercial, very diluted, and they're not the atmospheres they once used to be. They're not the atmospheres they once used to be. There are some gyms you'll go to and everybody puts their weights away. People wipe off the machine when they're done. Working in with somebody's not a problem. Spotting somebody's not a problem. Getting a spot's not a problem. But nowadays, again, the etiquette has been lost and the camaraderie's been lost, because lifting has been, and bodybuilding has kind of been made more commercial and mainstream. More people are involved in it now. And again, that's a good thing, but please learn your etiquette, learn gym culture. It's a very valuable thing. It's a very important thing. It helps the whole ecosystem work better. That's it for Gym Etiquette 101 today. Hope you learned something. Hope this was informative. Have a nice day.